Today we're going to talk about a fun game called Sushi Go. Now, I'll be honest with you, I am not a fan of sushi. I don't like it. There's a few I'll eat, but majority of them I'm not a fan of. But Sushi Go, it's a whole lot of fun. Let me show you how to play. Sushi Go is what we call a drafting game. It is the most basic drafting game I've ever seen, and it's a great way to get people interested in that type of game. And what you do is you get a hand of cards, depending on the player count, and you look at your hand, and you pick one card, and everybody simultaneously will show that card and lay it down, and then you take the rest of your hand and you pass it to the left or the right, depending on the variant you're playing. And then looking at that new hand, again, you pick a card. When everybody's picked one, simultaneously you lay them down and you show what you've got. And you go all the way around the room until everyone has laid down all their cards. But what do the cards do? That's the important part. And that's what makes this game so much fun, is that each card is not only super adorable. I mean, look at how cute that card is. Okay. But each one scores differently. So right here we have a dumpling. Now dumplings score depending on how many you have. So for 1, you get 1 point. 2, you get 3 points. 3, you get 6 points, and so on. And the numbers down here show you how many points you get depending on how many dumplings you have. Next up are tempura. Now, tempura by themselves aren't worth any points. But if you look at the bottom, it says times 2 equals 5. That means when you get 2 of them, it's worth 5 points. So 1 of them isn't worth anything. 2 is worth 5. 3, again, is still worth 5. But once you get that 4th one, it's now worth 10. So for every 2 tempura you get, it's worth 5 points. Next up, we have sashimi. And sashimi, just like with the tempura, instead of it being times 2, this one is times 3. So when you have a set of 3, it's worth 10 points. Then we have nigiri, and there are multiple types of nigiri. We have egg nigiri, which is worth 1 point, shows right down at the bottom. We have salmon nigiri, which is worth 2 points. And then we have squid nigiri, which is worth 3 points. We also have a card called wasabi. Now, I will tell you, not a super big fan of sushi, but I love me some wasabi. And this one by itself isn't really worth anything, but it's a multiplier for the next card you lay down. So if you lay down a wasabi and then you lay down, then the next round you lay down, let's say a squid nigiri, which is worth 3 points, it's now worth 9 points, 3 times 3. Next up, we have maki rolls. Now, maki rolls aren't really worth a certain number of points during the game, but as you can see at the bottom, the person with the most maki rolls gets 6 points. The one with the second most gets 3 points. And the number of maki rolls are that image up on the top corner. So this one is 1. This one has 2. This one has 3, and so on. So those are the majority of the cards that you have, but you also have a couple specialty cards. One is a little bit different than everything else, and it's similar to the maki rolls in that it doesn't score until the end, but the way it scores is these are the pudding cards, and as you can see at the bottom, the person with the most gets 6 points, but the person with the least amount gets negative 6 points. And so you definitely want to make sure that if you see anybody laying down pudding, you want to make sure that you grab a pudding too, so that way you don't have the least amount. And then last, but certainly not least, are your chopsticks. I mean, what sushi meal would be the same without having chopsticks, right? Chopsticks are not worth any points, but when you lay them down, you can actually next turn around or whenever you want, pick them back up. And as you can see at the bottom, you can swap them, and instead of taking 1 card, you can take 2. And so that's a great way to kind of spice things up, no pun intended. Now, the big thing about when you're drafting is, and what makes this game special is you're not just thinking about what you want and what's going to help you score, but you want to look at everybody else, because you might grab something that isn't necessarily going to benefit you very much, but you grab it so that way it doesn't benefit somebody else even more. So for example, you may not care about the squid nigiri, but it's worth 3 points. And you know that the person next to you just laid down a wasabi and you don't want them getting 9 points. So you take that just so that way they don't get those extra points. And there's just a lot of strategy and tactics that can go into it. So I absolutely love Sushi Go. I think it should be in everybody's collection, whether you're a hardcore gamer or you're just getting into gaming. absolutely consider getting Sushi Go.